Hey, welcome back to That Sounds Gay. I'm in. I'm Sai, and this is.
Dory!
He has decided to join us this week. Much like last week, how we had our little conversation with Maya. This week, Dory has decided to join us and talk to us about his time in the military. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to start?
Well, I was in the Army. I was an 88 Mike, which essentially just means that I drove trucks all day, every day. I am gay, and I'm just here to share my story, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. Welcome back. Uh, can you tell us a bit about your background and what actually inspired you to join the military?
Well, nothing really inspired me to other than the fear of homeless.
I feel like that's a pretty good inspiration.
So I had recently lost my job while I was still living at home with my mother and my grandparents, and was told that either I could join the military or I could get out. So I didn't really have any money set aside to move out, so I didn't really have a choice.
Okay.
I would much rather be in the military than homeless.
Okay. Nope.
That has since changed.
Okay, so now your feelings have reversed on that. Now you'd rather be homeless than be in the military?
Oh yeah.
Totally. We'll get into that. Now, you said you were in the Army, right?
Yep.
And you said you drove trucks. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I mean, we supplied everything from food to fuel to ammunition, whatever was needed at the time, we would supply it. We'd even supply soldiers. We were basically transport for anything and everything and everyone.
So you guys just transported everything. Was it just military related, or did you
Just
transport
military.
things off base as well?
I mean, only off base when we'd be like going to another base to do training.
Okay, but if it only ever base to base type stuff, never base to civilian type things.
Yeah, no. Only
Okay.
ever like base to base.
Now, when did you serve? Like, what time period did you serve, and what were some key moments or missions you were a part of?
I'm trying to think of the years. I believe it was 2016 to 2020. I got out right before COVID hit. Like really hit and shut everything down. So yeah, I think it was January 2019 or 2020 when I got out. I think it was 2020. As for missions, I mean, I got sent over to South Korea as my first duty station. I never really got deployed anywhere, so there weren't really any impressive missions, unfortunately. Just lots of training stuff. Unfortunately, when it comes to missions, I don't really have any good stories on that one. I have good stories about other things, and I don't mean that as a euphemism.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Well, the military, while it has gotten a lot more lax with LGBTQIA plus individuals, unfortunately, a lot of the people in the military have not. So I had issues when I was in basic training. I had issues at my last duty station with introducing my now ex-husband to anybody in the company, that kind of thing. One of my squads that I had, you could tell they kind of just put all of the gay people together. Yeah, my whole squad at one point was gay, and they kind of just put us all together and kind of left us to our own devices a lot of times. So yeah, there's a lot of different kind of things that we'll go into.
Okay, so how would you say you navigated your identity while serving, especially after bringing that kind of a combat up? Were you out to any of your combats, and did you feel the need to keep it private at any point in time?
When I first joined, I was not out. I was forced out about halfway through basic training, which is 9 weeks. So halfway through that, about 4.5 weeks, 4 to 5. I had been telling everybody that I had a fiance at home, which I did. I did have a fiance at the time. Ironically, was not my ex-husband. I had received a letter from him admitting to an affair. And then some of my, I hate using this term, but some of my battle buddies decided to go through my mail and found out about my fiance actually being a guy, whereas I had been telling everybody that it was a female. And so they spread it around the company as fast as they could because, to be fair, most of them were fresh out of high school. So they were still in that, oh, we're going to be the bullies kind of thing.
The high school drama mentality.
Yeah, high school drama mentality. I had already been out of high school for 2 years at that point. So it turned into a whole fiasco, including some very nasty lies about me flying around that thankfully I had some really good friends who defended me, and I was able to get out of that squad or platoon, whatever you want to, it would be a platoon. But I was able to get out of that platoon and into a different one that was a lot more open and accepting. So that was always good. Yeah.
Okay.
After that, I didn't really hide anything. I didn't see a point. People were either going to like me or hate me the way they did.
Okay. So, how did being LGBT impact your experience in the military, especially when talking about like times during like being open about your sexuality, even when you were discouraged or even possibly prohibited?
Well, like I said, there were some issues in basic training. As I was saying before, some really nasty rumors started flying around after I got outed. That almost put an end to my military career in general. Military is very much against, trying to think of a way to say this in a not so bad sounding way. They're very much against sexual harassment, sexual assault, all that kind of thing. And again, I hate using this term, battle buddies started spreading rumors that I was staring at the guys in the shower. Thankfully, like I said, I had some friends who came to my defense, and they vouched for the fact that I would not shower until after everybody else had, to avoid that exact kind of situation happening.
So they
Not
were
to
all
avoid me
lying to
staring
try
at
to.
them, but yeah. Like, not to avoid me staring at them, but to avoid those kinds of rumors getting started in the first place. Clearly, it didn't help much, but,
But it did help you out in the end because it gave you a
it gave me a
alibi
defense.
almost.
Yes. I literally every night would risk getting in trouble and getting what we call smoked, essentially meaning I'm getting punished with physical exercise to the point of exhaustion, which when I first joined basic training was not much. It didn't take much for me to hit physical exhaustion when I first joined, but thankfully, I had those friends who came to my defense. We were able to get me out of that platoon and into a different one. After that, like I said before, I really stopped caring what people thought of me. They were either going to love me or hate me. I didn't care. If they loved me, great. We could be friends. It didn't really bother me too much until I got to my last unit. My last unit, they constantly tried to tell me that I couldn't bring my new fiance at the time, my ex-husband, to family gatherings because he was not considered family, as he was just my fiance, not, we weren't married yet. Ignoring the fact that a lot of people would bring their boyfriends, their girlfriends. One person literally brought his roommate.
Okay, so that rule is obviously pretty lax underneath normal circumstances.
It wasn't a rule. It was just they would tell me specifically, hey, you can't bring your partner
So it was
to
something made
these.
for you.
Yes.
Okay.
While they will never admit that because they would get kicked out of the military very quickly, any kind of discrimination is not okay as long as you can prove it. Unfortunately, in the military, it tends to be a whole he said, she said thing where they almost always take the higher ups' word, which is something that really should be fixed. But it eventually got to the point I stopped caring. I brought him to a mandatory fun day because we have those. And I made sure to go out of my way to introduce him to every single person who told me that I could not bring my partner. And he
Being
was in
petty
on it.
about it.
I am very petty. He was in on it. He knew exactly what was going on. My sergeant first class at the time, he was my platoon leader. He saw us outside, immediately did a 180 and tried to sneak back in before I saw him. Thankfully, I saw him. So I made a very big show of calling him over to meet my fiance. Other than that, I didn't really have many bad experiences. Even when they did the whole, full gay squad, that didn't bother me. I made some great friends there. So it was perfectly fine. Well, yeah, a little bit discriminatory. Well, a lot of it discriminatory. It didn't really bother any of us because we all liked each other. And we got our work done at the end of the day, and usually we're done before anybody else.
Okay.
So
So
it was nice for the most
I
part.
feel like you kind of touched on this for a second, but kind of possibly expanding on it. Were there any challenges that you faced that were specific to your identity as an LGBTQ person? And if so, how did you cope with those challenges?
I mean, other than the basic training one, that was the only real challenge.
Okay.
My way of coping with it was I had a severe breakdown that day when I got called into the drill sergeant's main office. And then it kind of honestly just pushed me to want to be better than all of them. I wanted to, run faster than them, do more push-ups, do more sit-ups. I just wanted to outdo them in everything at that point. I got petty and spiteful, and it worked. When I got out
It's
of
not a
basic
bad
training,
thing.
no, it's not. When I got out of basic training, it was not 100% top of my class, but I was really high up there. I think I was like third or fourth. So, it just, anytime I come across something like that, it just pushes me to want to be better than that person in every way possible.
Okay.
So,
Talking about that from the opposite end of everything, however, now, were there any experiences where you felt supported or just overly accepted by the military and like because of you being part of the LGBT community?
so it's hard to ever say that you feel accepted by the military, by people in the military. Yeah, I had many people who, they had my back no matter what. I had people who came to my defense. Shoot, I even had a chaplain. For those who aren't military, chaplains are basically priests. There are all kinds of denominations and everything, but, this was the only one that I could really go and talk to, as he was the only one in my battalion, which is like, it's like squad, platoon, company, battalion, brigade, and then just division. So he was the only chaplain in my entire battalion. I actually went to him quite often when I was feeling down or feeling, like I was being made to be less than because of who I am or because of who I like. He was actually really, really cool. He was a Christian pastor. He was really cool though. He never made me feel like I wasn't loved. He actually went out of his way to ensure that I was. He never made me feel like I was like some pastors will go out of their way, especially like Westboro Baptist, to make you feel like you're going to hell just for existing. He never made me feel like that. He made me feel very loved and accepted every time. Chaplain Williams was awesome.
Okay.
I wish I
Awesome.
still had contact with him. He was cool. He was also a nerd, so we hit it off really well.
I mean, that's amazing. But with the last name of Williams, I'd imagine it's kind of hard to keep track of people after. Is it hard to keep track with people after you left the military, or is that something that do you guys have like a Facebook that you guys can keep up with people afterwards?
So I do still have some friends from the military. I've actually started talking to one of my friends who I did not know at the time was gay, but has since come out. So I've been talking to him again, and that's been really cool. It's hard for me to stay in contact with anybody who isn't directly in my life,
Okay.
but that's just a personal problem that I have to work on. But no, I know a lot of people stay in contact really well. I still have a few military friends that I talk to. Reaching back out to that friend was really nice. So we've been talking a lot. We even got to game the other day. But it can definitely be difficult. Phone numbers change, emails change, that kind of thing. So it can definitely be difficult to keep in.
Lives get busy, have people have
Yeah,
kids, things are
especially
happening.
when you're in the military, you're sent all over the place away from your friends. One of my best friends from basic training, she got sent to Florida. I got sent to Korea. It was a little difficult to keep in touch there because, time zones.
Person last week actually was telling us about that they were actually stationed in Korea as well.
Korea is a great place. The food is amazing. Whether you're doing their Americanized food or you're doing like Korean barbecue or just any of their food, it's amazing. Koreans
So
know how to cook.
we have French fries, which are not French fries in France. They're considered something completely different.
Yes.
Is there anything out there that you noticed that is like that, but for us, like almost a reverse situation?
For America, not really. I noticed that with something called gyoza.
Okay. I know
Gyoza
what
is
that is.
like, yeah, it's like fried dumplings or steamed dumplings, depending on what kind you go for. Over there, it's called yakimandu, and it's definitely made a bit different. It's got some more spices to it, which is really nice sometimes. But for American food, not that I really found.
Okay.
I mean, they make their food way different than we do, but it's so good.
That's awesome.
I will never have bulgogi again.
I don't even know what that is, truth be told.
It's yeah. I didn't realize it at the time. I was handed some and said, "Here, try it." It was good. It was very good.
Did
I
it
will
taste
never
like
do it
chicken?
again. It did.
Of course it did.
It really did. It tasted like really well seasoned chicken.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yep. I've eaten
Anyways,
cat.
moving along. So, how did your military experience shape or influence your understanding of your LGBT identity?
Okay. So when I was in the military, I got to I'm going to stay PG with this, but I got to do a lot of experimenting as, a military personnel. And unfortunately, I used a lot of that experimentation as a void fill. It was my
Okay.
first time away from home, that kind of thing. But because of that, it taught me a lot of things about who I am, what I am interested in. Weirdly enough, being in the military is the reason I found out about drag queens, and then later on became one for a little while. So
Oh
that will
yeah.
never happen again.
How long, or did you hate doing it?
It hurts. It hurts.
What do you mean?
Heels. Whoever invented heels, that man should be in hell. He should
Gotcha.
be burning in the fiery pits, all the way down in the final ring.
Gotcha.
Not only that, but, having to tuck, having to basically wear a binder to fit into the dresses because they're not meant for men. It's uncomfortable and it hurts, and you're on your feet for hours. Usually you're drunk by the end of it.
Or at the very least in your experience.
I have not met a single drag queen who was not drunk by the end of one of those shows. You need alcohol to make it through. But no, the military is how I found out about drag queens. One of my friends showed me RuPaul's Drag Race, which I loved. And then we literally turned it into a thing where we would go down to our, what did we call it? We had a game room in our barracks. And we would go down there. I would bring down my laptop and we would watch RuPaul's Drag Race every week. We would watch, 2 to 3 episodes of it until we started falling asleep. And we knocked out 7 seasons in a matter of, a few months.
It's a lot to that show.
Yes, very much so.
I say that, but then you look at other shows like Big Brother, and I don't even know. They're up to like what, season 48?
I
It's
don't know.
probably not that high,
The
but
rules of Big Brother make no sense to me. It's not a show I've ever really watched. As for the actual question, it just, being in the military helped me learn a lot about myself and about who I am, what I'm into, my type in men. Yeah. I also, being in the military, especially with how active the gay scene is in the military, which is surprisingly active, a lot of DLs. You very quickly learn to practice safe sex, to go get tested all the time. And so, yeah.
which is of course a fantastic idea. And
Yes, it is. Free testing at free clinics. Gotta love it.
yep. Now, looking back, do you wish you had been more open about your sexuality at any point in time? Or do you feel like you were too open?
I don't feel like I was ever not open about it, other than the first half of my basic training. And truthfully, I wouldn't change that with how, what's a good word for it? With how arrogant those people were. I feel like if I had been outright about it, I would not have ever been in the military.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that means that I never would have met my first husband. It means that I would have never met my current husband, who is hopefully my last. I don't think I'd change how open I was ever. I really only ever got like in your face about it if you were being insulting about it. Otherwise, I was just another soldier who just happened to like men.
I get that.
So I don't think I'd change how open I was either way.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on the changes that have occurred in military policies around LGBT service members over the years, such as the repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy and the inclusion of trans service members?
Ooh. So Don't Ask, Don't Tell was before my time. However, I do have some friends who were in during that time. I think it was a fantastic thing for it to be taken away. It was problematic in the fact that you couldn't be open about who you were, about who you loved, and that by itself it causes so many problems, so many issues. So I think getting rid of it was a good thing. I know that a lot of my friends who were in during that time who are gay or who have come out as gay since then, or, even were just experimenting a little bit. It caused a lot of issues for them. It made them have to be really careful for fear of backlash. I understand the point of it. It was meant to be well, we want you to be seen the exact same way as everybody else, but I don't want to be seen the same as everybody else. I want to be seen as me. Don't make me try to hide who I am. So I'm very glad they got rid of that one. Inclusion of trans people, I think, was a phenomenal idea. I think excluding them doesn't make a lot of sense. The Army, when you're in, one of the big things they talk about is their retention numbers and getting people to join and how they have a hard time doing it. So they opened themselves up to a whole new demographic of soldiers. So I think that was fantastic. I think the exclusion of trans soldiers that tried to happen a few years ago was a stupid idea. I think that it was a good thing it kind of just blew up. So yeah.
Okay. Now, how do you feel about the ongoing challenges that LGBT service members face even after the repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell and all of the other policies?
I think it's bullshit. And when I say that, I don't mean that like it's bullshit that, there are issues or anything like that. I think it's quite literally bullshit that there's still issues going on because we're just people. Why does it matter who we sleep with? Why does it matter who we're attracted to? We're people. We're soldiers. We're not here to sleep with all of y'all. We're here to defend the country. So
And
it's
ultimately, like they
stupid.
say, what happens behind closed doors is completely irrelevant. So
Exactly.
let's get back to the matter at hand.
Why does who I have in my bed at night away from everybody else affect you in any kind of way?
Now, in my controversial opinion, the only good thing that ever came out of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy was the entire joke that was the television series MASH. I can't remember the name of that character, but it was problematic. Don't get me wrong. There were
But it was so fun.
problematic things behind it, but it was hysterical.
It is going to drive me up a wall.
Now, getting back to it though. So after your service, how did you transition back to civilian life, and did your LGBTQ plus identity play a role in that process at all?
Well, by the time I got out, I had finally gotten married. So I was already living with my husband, you know, doing the usual thing. I took a couple months off when I first got out just because I didn't get any of my back pay that I was owed from them until right as I was getting out, which was nice. I was able to take almost half a year off with $18,000. I wish I had
Nice.
that now.
I bet.
Really do.
I bet a lot of people do.
But it really just turned into, my husband would go to work, I'd clean up, he'd come home, I'd have food made, and then we'd go out to the bar. We had a karaoke bar that we went to in Tacoma, Washington. It's called The Mix. If you live there, you should go there. They are an awesome little hole-in-the-wall karaoke bar. The drinks that they make are fantastic. You should try a Midori Sour. It tastes like a green Jolly Rancher with alcohol, and it's amazing.
That sounds dangerous.
Oh, yeah. It's light on the alcohol, though. Like that drink specifically. But no, it was a fun time. We went to Pride, which was my first Pride ever and my second Pride. So yeah, I'd definitely say it like not really much changed for me on who I was when I got out. More of just what I was now allowed to go do because I didn't have to worry about getting up at, 4 a.m. the next morning to go work out. I was able to actually, have fun outside of, work. Yeah. And
Okay.
that's when I started becoming a drag queen as well. Tara Pride, and that's Pride Pryde, because we love Marvel in my house, and Kitty Pryde from X-Men is amazing. I didn't want to be in anybody else's drag house family, so I made my own, and it never grew past me, but that's fine.
I mean, hey, that works. You had your own identity and you ran
Exactly.
with yourself.
And that's always been my thing is I want to stand out. I want to be apart from the crowd.
Hey there. Here at That Sounds Gay, I'm in. We care a lot about the health of our community, both mental and physical. And today, we've got an important health update for you. Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, is a viral infection that's been making headlines recently and since 2022 here in America. But don't worry, we've got the facts you need to stay informed and stay safe. Now, Mpox is a disease that can spread through close contact with an infected person or animal. It is important to recognize the symptoms early, though. These symptoms can include, but may also include others, fever, body aches, and a rash that starts as bumps and turns into sores over time. While Mpox is usually mild, it can sometimes lead to more serious complications. But here's the good news. There are ways to protect yourself. Practicing good hygiene and avoiding close contact with anyone who's been exposed to the virus or who you believe may have been exposed to the virus. And of course, getting yourself vaccinated if you're at higher risk are all important steps you can take to reduce your chances of getting Mpox. For more information on prevention, symptoms, and treatment options. Visit or contact your local healthcare provider or personal doctor. Staying informed is the best way to keep you and your loved ones safe. Remember, knowledge is power, and unlike what GI Jose says, you don't know enough. So remember, staying prepared is the key to having a good health. Thank you for listening, and we are excited to see you guys in the next show. See ya.
So, what advice would you give to LGBT individuals who are looking or thinking about joining the military today?
My advice would be don't hide who you are. You are amazing just the way you are. Be yourself. If, people don't like it, screw them. They're not worth it at that point. Don't let anybody, especially somebody higher ranked than you, don't ever let them make you feel like you're less than, because you're not. You are just as important as anybody else. Truthfully, you're probably more important than your higher-ups, because half the time the higher-ups don't do anything. Occasionally they do. Sometimes you get some really good ones. But most of the time, the higher-ups don't do anything, and they rely on the lower enlisted soldiers to do everything for them. So don't ever let somebody make you feel like you're less than.
Okay, good words. In your opinion, what still needs to be done to ensure equality and inclusion for all LGBT individuals?
Truthfully, people need to stop worrying about it. And I'm not talking about LGBT individuals need to stop worrying about it. I'm talking about everybody else needs to stop worrying about who we're sleeping with, because it doesn't.
Given the current geopolitical affairs, I don't exactly see that.
I don't either, unfortunately. But, that, and I'm not saying, don't talk about it at all. Just like, so many people are offended by the fact that I love a man. Why? Why does it offend you so much? Even the people who are like, oh, well, it's your eternal soul, it's going to be damned to hell. Okay, that's my choice. Who cares? People need to stop worrying about what goes on in other people's bedrooms, because it doesn't involve them. That's the only way that we're going to ever move past this. And no, I'm not saying either to, forget everything that's happened, because forgetting it is just going to cause history to repeat itself. If you forget what's happened in the past, you are doomed to repeat it. And, that goes for so many different things that have happened. Any kind of, what is the word? Any kind of degradation or oppression, that's the word I was looking for. Anything like that shouldn't ever be forgotten, but it needs to be moved past. Until people can move past, caring about who I sleep with, caring about who I love, until people can move past, oh, that person's skin tone is that color, that's so horrible, which is so stupid to me. Nothing's going to change until people can move past that kind of.
Okay.
But you also shouldn't forget that stuff's happened, because again, you're doomed to repeat it if you do.
Valid. If you don't pay attention to everything, you don't know what to pay attention to.
Exactly.
Last one, do you happen to have any closing thoughts or stories you'd like to share about your journey as an LGBT person in the military, either during, or post-military life?
My last thing that I have is just to reiterate, do not let anybody, whether you're military or not, I don't care if you're a civilian, if you're a soldier, it does not matter. Do not let anybody belittle you for who you are. You are amazing, you are loved, and there are people out there who care for you. Some people may not be able to respect you for who you are. They're not worth it. Do not let anybody make you feel less than.
Fantastic.
Blinding myself with my ring light to look directly at the camera.
These things are terrible and fantastic. They
really are.
And I really like the word fantastic tonight, apparently.
But
with that being said, I hope you have a fantastic night, and I hope everybody else has a fantastic time too. We're going to have all of our usual information in the show notes, and next week Matt will be rejoining everybody, and he'll be actually talking to psychiatrist Rachel McDaniel. So have a great day.